Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Neptune making a square opposition or inconjunct aspect to one's natal Uranus. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Neptune, it can be about dreams, fantasies, inspiration, self-sacrifice ideals, even things that may be unrealistic or not realistically attainable. And when you have, this transit basically making an adverse aspect to one's natal Uranus, well, I want to elaborate on that. When I say adverse, basically adverse transit. Now, squares and oppositions, of course, those are adverse or negative aspects in astrology. Now, the inconjunct aspect is neutral, but a neutral aspect can have good and bad qualities in them, and an inconjunct can often require an adjustment or a transition of sorts. And this is, and that, of course, can cause some exasperation and tension. So collectively, basically, I do see this as an adverse transit. Now, the thing about this is that well, yeah, when you have the transit Neptune basically making an adverse aspect to one's natal Uranus, while it may manifest in the dreams, fantasies, inspiration, self-sacrifice ideals, even things that might be unrealistic or not, realistically attainable, those things might conflict with freedom. It can be a time where you might be, maybe you're doing something where you're sacrificing a lot of your time, and maybe you're actually trying to free yourself from that, so to speak, and you're having difficulty doing that. Or you might not be as inspired to become more independent or freedom oriented. If you're somebody that's in a dependent situation where you're depending on others, things that are monetary, material, or what have you, it might be harder to really to free yourself at this time from that kind of situation. Now, Uranus is also associated with the future, and it might be where the future might be a little bit cloudy, a little bit more nebulous. Maybe you might be more lethargic at this time, or tired or fatigued, and those things might be challenging you going after your future at this point in time. Maybe you're torn between relaxing and fantasizing and daydreaming in terms as opposed to going after what your future is at this point in time. And the thing about this is, if you are involved, a few of you out there may see this that might have some involvement in drugs or alcohol. If you are, this is a transit that might adversely affect your future. Now, something like that, it can negatively impact your future potentially, no matter what transit you have. But when you have this kind of transit, it increases that propensity. And anyway, now Uranus is also connected with friendships, and it might be a time where you don't see these people perhaps as clearly as you had once seen them. Maybe they come across as a little bit more nebulous or unclear at this time. It might be where at this time if you're trying to, let's say if you're trying to isolate yourself at this time, from groups or from friendships, those things might be harder to come by. Neptune is connected with isolation, and Uranus, of course, is associated with friends, with groups, with clubs, organizations, and society in general. Another thing, too, is that, and you might feel, even if you're trying to isolate yourself from society, it might be a time where you might find more difficulty in doing this. It may be a time too when you have this. Okay, Uranus can be connected with selflessness and altruism, and again, going back to the fact that Neptune is connected with inspiration, and it's also fatigue and lethargy. You may not be as inspired to altruistically help others, to express selflessness at this time. It might be that you may feel you need to take care of your own needs for a little bit, whatever reason it might be. It can be a time too where fatigue or tiredness, sleep might conflict with these matters. Uranus is also it's connected with goals and aspirations. You're at this time you might have an unclear picture of what those are. It can be a time, looking at this as well. Another thing to keep in mind is that Uranus, anatomically speaking, is connected with the ankles, the shins, the calves, nerves, and circulation. And it may be a time where these things might the reason for these problems, again going back to the fact Neptune can be nebulous or unclear, it can make things blurry even if there's maybe an X-ray or MRI done. Maybe something doesn't go right initially with it, and it's somewhat trying to see what's going on with this might be somewhat unclear as far as the imagery goes. It can be something too where you could have Neptune is also connected with the feet and the toes. Maybe there's something with the ankles, or shins or lower legs that maybe it's sending. Maybe there's a signal. Maybe there's something that's causing problems with the feet or the toes as well at this time, and maybe there's some adverse connection with that. And anyway, it can also be a time too. Keep in mind, I don't know if this actually can happen or not, or can have an impact on this, but Neptune is connected with drugs and alcohol again, and the fact that Uranus is circulation, I don't know if that can have an adverse or negative effect on circulation, but if it can, this is the time where it may be more emphasized and pronounced. Now, Uranus is also associated with innovation, and just guard against, like if you're somebody that's putting out a new product or invention or what have you, make sure it's the real, what you're putting out is realistic, and it's something that really has a good shot at being won over by the public, or something that's going to be productive, it's going to be useful to many. Another thing too is that now Uranus is also connected with astrology, so it can be a time to where you might be encountering, if you're interested in this, if you're watching this video, you're obviously either enamored with astrology or you have some interest in it anyway. It might be a time where there may be people that are more, very spiritual. They might conflict with what you're doing with astrology. There might be more battles with these people at this time, more so than usual. Uranus is also associated with computers. So if there's something going on with your computer at this time, maybe it's harder to diagnose. Again, Neptune could be very nebulous, unclear, confusing energy. It might be a time where self-sacrifice might be conflicting with doing just Uranus things in general, whether it's something with computers or astronomy or astrology or innovating. Uranus is also very erratic and sporadic energy. And it might be a time where, if you're dealing, with something, with Neptune related, whether it's the feet, the toes, lymphatic or immune system, these issues might be a little bit more erratic or sporadic than usual. It might be, where Neptune is also connected with dreams, so it might be that these, dreams can be, such at this time where maybe they're more, there's something where they're more unusual, that you're having difficulty in understanding, or it might be where the dreams that you're trying to actually attain might be conflicting with friendships or people that you're in some group, club, or organization with at this time. Now, another way this transit may manifest, it could be where you might be, matters with sacrificing may conflict with your goals and aspirations. Now, say if the natal Uranus is in Sagittarius as an example, those goals and aspirations may be associated with sports or religion or immigration, adventure, philosophy as some examples. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now another way this transit may be expressed, it could be where you're dealing with some chaos in your life. These things may challenge. It could be activities with friendships. Say if the natal Uranus is in Scorpio, it could be doing something with locksmithing or with the occult, which includes astrology, recycling. Um, it might be an insurance matter you're helping someone on, or a tax-related issue. Maybe helping somebody figure out a will. Um, it could be too, when you have this transit, that another way it may manifest, it could be that lethargy may adversely affect group-related activities. Now, say if the natal Uranus is in Aquarius, as an example, those group-related activities may be connected with astrology, astronomy, computers, innovation, electronics, altruism, as some examples. Now, issues with the feet, the toes, the lymphatics, or immune system, especially if you've already had these issues prior to this transit, this may negatively impact your future at this time, more so than in most other transits. Now, if Uranus is in Capricorn, natal Uranus is in Capricorn as an example, it could be a future connected with business, information technology, accounting, politics, the government, dentistry as some examples. And again, going back to alcohol in drugs, these things could have a negative effect. If they can, I don't know 100% if they can, but if they can have an adverse effect on circulation and varicose veins, I would imagine they potentially can. This is a greater propensity for that at this time. And also, too, keep in mind, Neptune is connected with fraud and deception, and Uranus is associated with the internet. So it might be a time where you might be, more susceptible to that at this time, and just guard against, accepting people, friend requests, whatever it might be, that may not be who they are at this time, or somebody running, I don't know if you call a bum steer, or trying to get you to sign up for something, and some group or what have you, or there's somebody offering some partnership situation. I've got some of these requests, and I do suspect most of them, if not all of them, have been fraudulent. And another thing too is that keep in mind that this is Neptune. It can be about sleep, and Uranus's disruptions, and it might be, where your sleep might be more disrupted at this time, more so than usual. And there might also be some issues with when you look at if you have a boat. Neptune can be associated with boats. There might be some electrical issues that might be causing difficulty. Uranus can be connected with electricity, things that are electrical. Anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.